Hi everyone, and welcome back to Ascend's weekly webinar, Friday Forums. If this is your first time tuning in, these webinars run every Friday at 12 o'clock PM Australian Eastern Standard Time, and we cover a range of topics from the most commonly asked support questions to new features and handy tips and tricks to help you along your journey with Ascend. So please come along and don't forget your lunch. So today we'll be taking a deep dive into patient communications within Ascend. Most customers are already using some form of patient communication, but did you know that this can be set up directly within Ascend? So take the stress out of calling each patient individually and have SMS or email reminders automated for your practice, and it will save you hours. As always, please do send through any questions you may have throughout the webinar, and I'll be sure to answer those for you. The first thing I want to discuss is best practice. So let's start with what is best practice. Throughout the years, dental practices have, for the first time, felt severe financial pressure as a result of patients either postponing routine appointments or stopping attendance altogether. Software of Excellence has systematically analysed data from over 1,400 practices, researching those aspects of a practice's systems that most affect efficiency and profitability, and gaining insight into why the best performing practices outperform the rest. Our aim was to investigate whether the recall processes being used in practices had any correlation to recall effectiveness. This research led us to identify those processes being used by the top 5% best performing practices, and we have gone ahead and combined these into what we refer to as best practice. Through prior experience and research, we have been able to conclude that best practice is to recall 3 times using 3 differing communication methods. So as you can see, based on this schedule here, there is SMS, email, and letter communication types. Now, evidence suggests that practices using this strategy were found to be twice as likely to gain recall success rates in excess of 75% when compared with practices that don't vary their recall communications at all. Now, continuing to engage with lapsed patients can also have a positive impact on recall success rates. So that's why in the best practice schedule, you continue to recall patients, not only after 6 months when their recall is normally due, but at 12 months, 24 months, and 36 months as well. There are also a few other aspects involved with gaining great recall success rates, which occur outside of the actual recall reminders. So, the first one is pre booking patients for their next appointment before they leave the practice. This is a crucial procedure for the top 5% performing practices, definitely something you want to make sure you're implementing within your practice. Practices should also check that recall dates are accurately set within Ascend and that recalls are staggered throughout the month to facilitate an efficient system that won't overwhelm the reception team. So, sending small recall batches each day rather than a large run once a month makes the process a lot more manageable. Moving on to best practice for appointment reminders. The large benefit of this particular schedule with the 21 days prior, 7 days prior, and 2 days prior is the reduction in cancellation and fail to attend. So, on average, appointment best practice reduces fail to attend rates by 50%. This means it also frees up the reception staff so they'll no longer have to individually call each patient to confirm that they're still coming to their appointment, which means that they're able to focus their phone calls on high value or lengthy treatments. Now, having multiple appointment reminder messages also has the added benefit of prompting patients to cancel earlier. If patients only receive one reminder 1 day prior to their appointment, your practice is left open to last minute cancellations, which can be tricky to fill. The earlier the cancellation, the higher the chance that you're going to be able to later fill those gaps in your appointment book. So now that you have an understanding of the benefits of the best practice setups, let's go take a look at how you can make changes to your patient communications as required. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to jump into settings up here in the top right, and we're just going to head over to patient communications here. Once within here, you can see at the top there are going to be 2 tabs, one for appointment and one for Recare. Below that, you're also going to see that there is a timeline, which we'll get into in just a moment. And then below that is where you're going to have your reminders. Now, you'll see that there are some that are sort of highlighted and then a few others that are grayed out or inactive. Now, there's two ways to create new appointments. The first of which is, of course, you can go ahead and hit create new. Or alternatively, you can take a current one that's already there but marked as inactive and just edit it to be the number of days prior that you're interested in using. So as an example, you can see that I have an appointment reminder sent 2 days prior to the appointment. I also have one sent 7 days before the appointment as well. I also have one when the appointment gets confirmed. So I might want to go ahead and add another one that's 21 days prior. So I'm going to actually click on this one here that says appointment start that's currently inactive. So clicking on that, you can see that the first thing you're going to see is a sample email and sample text message. This just gives you an overview of what it's going to look like based on the settings that you have set. But for us to go ahead and edit it, we do want to go ahead and hit edit. So we'll click that here. So there's a few different settings on this first screen under the notification schedule. The first one is what the appointment reminder is based on. Now you'll notice that we selected one that said appointment start. There are a few other options such as appointment completed, appointment broken, or FTA. Now I do want to send a reminder prior to the patient's appointment start date, but if you were interested in setting it up for a different appointment reminder type, then for example, broken date, confirmed date, or whatever it may be, you are welcome to change that. Next to that, you're going to find the number of days or weeks that you want to send it for, which you can of course change. So in my case, I want to set this to 21. So I'm going to go ahead and hit 21. And it's already sitting on days, but you just want to be aware that there is a drop down to be able to change this time period as well. And you can also select if you want it to be sent before or after this event. Below that, you'll see that there are a couple of switch boxes as well, which you can turn on or off. The very first one is exclude automated message. Now, this by default will be off, and I recommend that you keep this off. What this will do is if you turn it on, is it's going to exclude the appointment reminder message. So I'll show you where in just a moment, but you can add a message that you've personally typed out yourself. But it's important to keep in mind that if you do it this way, you're not able to include merge fields. So it's not going to be personalized to include the patient's name. It's not going to be personalized to include the patient's appointment day or time. Next to that, there is also this include pre-medicate message on email. Now, this is, of course, to add a little note at the bottom of the email just to advise the patient to take their medication prior to coming in for their appointment. So if you do have a few patients that do need to pre-medicate, you're very welcome to switch that on. The third one here is this ability to confirm. Now, this, of course, is predominantly for appointment reminders, and it's just going to add on at the end of the reminder, please reply 1 to confirm your appointment. Now, this is going to be sent 21 days prior, this particular appointment reminder, which is fair way prior to their appointment. So what I actually might do is actually turn this ability to confirm off, because what I think would be a better way to do this would be for the patient to receive a reminder 21 days prior, and then at the 7 days mark, they can maybe confirm it, and then 2 days prior, they can just get another reminder letting them know that it's coming up. So I've switched that off now. And then finally, there is also another area down here where you can continue sending the message if you would like to. So how this works is if you have this switched to on, you can select how many days you want to continue sending the reminder and after how many times will it discontinue sending. So I'm going to switch this off because we're going to send 21 days prior, 7 days, and 2 days prior. I probably don't need this same reminder to continue sending. Once you're happy with that, you do just want to go ahead and hit next. This is where you can select your preferred sending methods. So currently it's set to text, and how this works is if a patient doesn't have a valid mobile number, then instead it's going to send them an email. Same goes if you set your email as the preferred sending method. If they don't have a valid email address, it's going to alternatively send them a text message. Moving along, this is where you're going to see what the template looks like. So the first area you'll see is this subject, which you can edit as required. So if you wanted to add your practice name in the top there so patients know who the email is coming from, very welcome to add that in there. It's going to show you what this automated message looks like. And then at the bottom, there's also an area to add in a custom message. What a lot of practices do use this for is a disclaimer or something along the lines of, if you cancel less than 24 hours notice, then there will be a fee or something along those lines. If you have something like that that you just want to remind patients of, this would be the area to do that. Now, going ahead and hitting next, you're going to have the same information but for the text message. So it's going to show you what it looks like and again give you the area to add in the custom message. Now, jumping over to the final area, this is where your practice information sits. Now, this is going to add onto the bottom of the email or the text message, so it is important that this is correct. If you do notice that something is incorrect, you can jump in and edit it by hitting this Edit Practice Information area. Once you're happy with that, you just want to go ahead and hit done. And that's going to bring you back to the home screen where you can see the sample email and sample text message based on the settings that you've just set. Now, as a very final step, because I have edited a currently inactive reminder, what you do want to do is go ahead and actually mark this as active. So I'm just going to switch that on over there. And it is going to just come up with a little bit of a disclaimer letting you know that if you do this, you're going to possibly get charged for some SMS reminders. Once you close out of there, you can see that this has now been activated. Now, taking a quick look back at the top here, you can see now that there is a new box here that says 21 days. Now, this is a timeline of what appointment reminders are going to be sent out and in what order. So it's just a really nice visual representation to be able to take a quick glance at how your reminders have been set up. Now, jumping on over to the Recare. This is very similar in the way that you set up the reminders. The only difference is that instead of being based on the appointment start day or time, it's going to be based, of course, on the Recare due date. So if I go ahead and jump into this one here, which is currently active, you can see again, the first thing you're going to see is the sample email and the sample text message. If we go ahead and edit that, we're going to see that it's going to have very similar settings as to what the appointment reminders did have. Of course, the standard time period for Recare is for it to be 6 months after their appointment, which is currently what I have set here. Of course, if this needed to be varied for whatever reason, you can absolutely go ahead and change that. Again, clicking this drop down, you can take a look at the different time ranges that are available. Again, there is this exclude automated message, and again, I would recommend always leaving that switched off. And you also have this option to continue sending. So currently, as an example, because this is switched on, you can see that this is going to repeat sending every 6 months until the Recare has been scheduled. If, however, it doesn't get scheduled, it's going to discontinue sending after it's been sent 3 times. Once you are happy with the setup here, again, you will just want to move along to the next area to set your preferred sending method. So currently it's set to email. I might go ahead and change that to text. And then hitting next again, this is where you're going to see the email message that is going to be sent out. And again, if you would like to, you're welcome to add a little bit of a disclaimer at the bottom there where you can add in a custom message. Once you're happy with that, you will just want to go ahead and do the same for the text message. Finally, on the last screen, again, there is the practice information, which should already be correct for you, but if you do need to make any changes, you can do that over here under the Edit Practice Information. Once you're happy with that, you just want to go ahead and hit done. Now, this particular Recare reminder was already activated, but just important to keep in mind that if you do edit a currently inactive reminder, you do just want to make sure you activate it up here on the right hand side, just so that it does start sending out for you. Another thing that's very useful to be aware of are the different Recare types that you have in your system. So again, if I go ahead and head over to settings, and this time I head over to Recare on the right hand side, open that up, you can see that this is going to show us the different Recare types that we currently have set up. So there's a few different ones here, but you can see that there's two that are bolded. There's Perio and then there's Profi. Now, the default Recare type is Profi. That's the one that's going to be come set up in your system, and this is the one that typically is going to be applied to most of your patients unless you are a specialist practice or something like that. Now, clicking onto Profi, you can see that there is this primary Recare type checkbox and it's ticked. Now, this is an important checkbox because if this is not ticked, it means automated reminders are not going to be sent out. Essentially, only automated reminders get sent for those Recare types that are set to be a primary Recare type. Now, once you do tick this, you're going to see that it's going to actually bold the Recare reminder type. So clicking onto Perio as well, you can see that that's also set as a primary Recare type, which means for both Perio and Profi, it's going to send out automatically. Whereas if we take a look at Ortho, for example, you can see that it's not ticked, which means that's not going to automatically send out for us. Jumping back over to Profi, the other thing that you'll notice are the procedures that have been set up. So there's the 114, the 111, and the 121. This, of course, dictates which item codes will apply Recare to patients when they come in and have that invoice. So as an example, if a patient came in and had a 114 completed, what that's going to do is automatically apply the Profi Recare type to their account. And that means they're going to be due for their Recare in 6 months' time. This is just going to automatically apply patients to be set up and put onto your recall schedule. Now, finally, the other area that you would want to be aware of is on the home screen overview, and that is the unconfirmed appointments and the unscheduled Recare. Now, what I'm going to do is show you quickly what the unconfirmed appointments area looks like. Now, you can see that I just have the one bar here at the moment, but if I go ahead and click onto that one, this is going to show me all the unconfirmed and confirmed appointments that I currently have for that day, which is Friday the 19th. Now, the useful thing about this in particular is that there is this last contacted column. Now, this particular patient hasn't received an appointment reminder just yet, but if they had, what you're going to see in this last contacted column is the day and time that that reminder was sent out. It's also going to show you if it was via text or via email. Now, that's going to show you that for all unconfirmed and confirmed appointments. So this is a really handy area just to keep an eye on that. You can also flick between the days as required if you'd like to look back a little bit further or look forward a little bit further. Heading back to the home page, I'm going to take a look at the unscheduled Recare instead as well. Now, this shows very similar information, but of course for Recare rather than appointment reminders. So the first thing you'll notice is that it's going to show you the Recare types. It's going to show you the patient's Recare due date, and of course, it's also going to show you that last contacted date on the right-hand side. Now, again, if this patient had received a Recare reminder, what this is actually going to show you is the day and time that reminder was sent out, as well as if it was a text message or an email reminder. The other thing to keep in mind is that this area can be edited a little bit as to what report you'd like to see. So by default, it's going to show you patients with Recare that are unscheduled, but you can change that if you, for example, want to take a look for all patients with no Recare, or if you want to look for patients regardless of if their appointment's scheduled or unscheduled. You can, of course, also change the due date range as well as the Recare types that you'd like to take a look for. So just a really useful area to manage all your Recare. All right, everyone. Well, that wraps up today's Friday forum. If you haven't already asked a question either about the content I've covered today or what you'd like to see us cover in the future, please do send an email through to ascend@softwareofexcellence.com and I'll absolutely get back to you. Before I go, I want to remind you that if you want to revisit this webinar or any past webinars at any point, they are all accessible on the Ascend Resource Centre. And you can access the Resource Centre via the Help button directly from within Ascend. The Resource Centre is regularly updated, so be sure to check back there regularly to find answers to all of your questions. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend and don't forget to tune in next week.